This is Back Roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We were glad you're here on Tuesday. I'm Cesar Delgado on today. AI this been having been popular for a few weeks back, but AI is there in the agricultural industry. We are talking about that with Tami Craig Shilling. Tami was working with Bayer for a few years ago. Now she's working with startup business with AI. We were welcoming Tami to the show. I'm going to talk about the cattle markets for right now, but corn and beans in the red. What going on with corn and beans, wheat? I will have a conversation about this with Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net. You've been listening to Back Roads of Illinois. AI this been having been popular for a few weeks back, but AI is there in the agricultural industry. We are talking about that with Tami Craig Shilling. Tami was working with Bayer for a few years ago. Now she is working with startup business with AI. We were welcoming Tami to the show. Tami, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cesar. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Tami, let's discuss about AI in agriculture. What is the benefit from AI?
Well, let's start by stepping back just a bit and thinking about what AI or artificial intelligence is. For many, many years, farmers have benefited from machine learning, and machine learning has helped companies like the company I worked for 35 years, really helped us develop better seed. And because it basically used AI to analyze different information and data. So it's been out there, and I believe farmers have benefited from that, and we've made products better, which is good. AI today is part of the mainstream conversation because back in the day, the only people that used AI were scientists or people that were building tools or systems. And today, AI is can be used by anybody who downloads a tool like ChatGPT or or are using some other technology, Gemini. When we do a Google search, we get a pop-up of you can get an AI summary of the information. And when I think about, so then the next step is I think about AI in agriculture. So there are a couple different ways to look at it as well. One, just 1 minute. So AI in agriculture today includes all of that machine learning, but it also includes things like robotics and automation and new ways of spraying, thinking about some of the drone spraying that I'm sure is using some artificial intelligence insights as well. But then you But then you get to the new tools and the opportunity for generative AI or the chatbots to come into agriculture. And that's where I've spent time the last 2.5 years is how do we use things like ChatGPT and other large language models to benefit farmers to solve some of the challenges that farmers and retailers have. And that's what I'm excited about is how can we use tools and how can we train tools better to answer some of the questions around product labels, around timing, um, what products we could use as farmers. And then I believe it will evolve as farmers have tons of data about their farms. I believe their ag retailers and other people will use AI tools to assess which and compare farms, much like people are talking about in the health industry. Compare this AI map or compare this MRI to this MRI, what's changed? I think we'd be able to do that in agriculture. Compare this field image to this field image, what's different? What do we do about it? And I think there's so much data in agriculture that we really haven't had the tools to analyze until now. And it's really fun to think about what we can do with it.
Do you recommend for farmers? Let's take a look for it because it's pretty confused. Everybody think about robot and technology, Tommy.
I do believe it's important for farmers, retailers, and the whole ag industry, corporations, startups to really take a look at the technology. But I also would say it's so early in the tech in some of this new technology that we have to do some work figuring it out and understanding what it means, understanding how it works, and understanding how to use it. When I think of when I was at the Commodity Classic event in Denver of last year, I asked several farmers how they were thinking about using AI tools. And part of the reason I was at Commodity Classic was to share work that I was doing with a great team back at Bayer, building a product and agronomy tool assistant that farmers and retailers, our own employees, could ask questions, much like we would have Googled in the past about what product can I use on foxtail? When do I apply? When's the best time that I apply a fungicide to control tar spot, et cetera? So I was asking many farmers, some that I knew, some that I didn't, how they were thinking about AI and how they were using these tools. And resoundingly, the answer I received was they're not many farmers, and this was farmers of all ages, all experience types, and really from multiple places around the country here in the US, is they didn't know exactly how to use it. They don't really understand how it works. Whether it's one of the growers said, I don't really understand how all this automation works. And I know eventually I'm going to have to figure it out because I'll get equipment that can do some of this robotic work or automation work. But I don't even understand how it all fits together. And then around using chat tools, many farmers today will use a chat on their phone if they're talking to somebody in a different kind of business, but they haven't necessarily thought about the role that a chat could play on the farm. So what we did was we gave farmers the opportunity to go into the system we built called Eli, E.L.Y. Um, is the name Eli, is the name of the system that was built. It's currently available to Bayer employees. So if you have a friend that's a sales rep or somebody that works in our R&D or production groups, they could show you and give you a demo. It's not publicly available yet to farmers and dealers. But when we showed it to farmers, they were really intrigued because it was simpler than Google. It got you to an answer and then it provides you a source. So there was a lot of interest in understanding how to get access to some of these tools and try them. And I think that's going to be a piece of this is the industry, ag organizations, industry orgs, companies, universities playing a role in providing farmers opportunities to try these tools. I also believe that we have to demonstrate that any AI technology that we use is accurate and trustworthy. And so at Farm Progress, when you and I met, I was there talking not as an employee of Bayer because I'd retired by then, but as an independent consultant working on a project with the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign's Center for Digital Ag, on a tool called, or on an approach called AgriBench, AGRI, capital BENCH, AgriBench. And the idea is farmers want to know they can trust tools and want to know they're accurate, but there isn't any way to understand that accuracy or build that trust today because no third party or no one's really looking at each tool and how it answers a set of questions. So what AgriBench is focused on is that very thing. It's building out a set of questions, a few hundred, and then having real agronomists across the US look at the answers and ensure the answers that are coming out are correct. So that ground truthing it. And then being able to take like Bayer, for example, could take the Eli tool. Any company that had built on an AI product and agronomy tool chat system could run the questions against the questions the University of Illinois will put out in their tool, and then they will certify how well they're doing, you know, how well they're doing in answering pest questions, you know, insects, diseases, weeds, fertilizer questions. Not every tool that is built for ag will answer all the same questions, most likely. And so this will give farmers an idea of how many, what percent correct or how accurate is the tool. Some people say, well, I want the tool to be 100% accurate. One of the things we remind people, and I can remember reminding the leadership team in North America at Bayer, was humans are not 100%. We do our best, but there is error that comes into it. And so as we look at AI tools, let's hold them accountable to the very best that a human can do, and and really try to improve the way we do things, make it faster for somebody to get these answers, make it quicker and easier, because right now it isn't the easiest thing to get all the answers that you need when you need it, which farmers often need them very urgently in the field. But it's absolutely better than Google, better than any search engine that I've ever used. But perfection is not part of it, and so I think we have to be open when we're looking at that, and we have to think about that, and try it at the same time.
Of course, we need to find it out for the future. What is your final thoughts with today's deal with AI?
Agriculture has a long history. The agriculture industry has a long history of adopting new technology to and new ways of doing things to improve yield, improve quality of life, improve our efficiency. I believe artificial intelligence will be another tool in the toolbox for a farmer to use, an ag retailer to use, a seed dealer, etc. The key will be using these technologies, trying them and seeing how they'll work on the farm, seeing how they can offer benefits, how they can improve efficiency. And I think we'll again be successful in this adoption, and it will be fun to be a part of that journey along the way.
Thanks, Tami. I enjoyed our conversation for today.
Thank you for asking me. I am really pleased with the opportunity to get to meet you and to spend some time with your listeners. And I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful fall. It's my favorite time of year. Be safe, and let's touch base again sometime.
Tami Craig, shilling on back roads of Illinois. I'm going to talk about the cattle markets for right now, but corn and beans in the red. What going on with corn and beans wheat? I will have a conversation about this with Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net. Tyler, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Caesar?
I'm good. Tyler, let's start with the beans markets for right now. What is your position on this beans markets?
Well, we had the quarterly stocks report today, and that was a big driver in the market. The beans were about a dime off, pretty well all the way across the board. I don't really know that that was so much a function of the quarterly stocks report as the stocks did not change. In fact, they actually came down slightly in soybeans. So that should have been a little bit friendly to the bean market. I think what's driving the bean market right now is early yield reports are showing, well, some pretty decent bean yields. And that's really everywhere. Early bean yield reports in North Dakota have been good. South Dakota above average. Iowa, Illinois, we're hearing some places with some pretty hefty soybean yields. And in Illinois, really that's in some areas somewhat surprising just because of the fact that they had such a dry August, really a pretty big lack of rain. An interesting thing we pointed out yesterday in one of our uh, webinars that we did was that if you look at the last 30 days, you take kind of a swath in Missouri, central and southern Illinois, and extend it over into Indiana and then Ohio. It's one of the driest last 30 days that we've seen in those areas in the last 133 years. But if you take that from like April to now, it's still one of the 10 to 20 wettest years they've seen. So, if you look at the growing season as a whole, it was a pretty decent growing season. And so we're seeing a lot of those yields come in. Now, the caveat to all of that is there's a very good chance the early planted beans are also the early harvested beans. Those are probably the ones that were least susceptible to the dry conditions that developed in the month of August. So let's see as we continue moving on if we don't see some of those yields drop. But right now, early yield indication is pretty good, and I think that's weighing heavy on the bean market.
How is the grains quarterly report? Can you recap of the numbers today?
Yeah, the real quick recap, the quarterly stocks on corn came in at 1.523 billion bushels. That's 207 million bushels above the September WASDE report. So I mean that's just going to be straight carry through on the new crop balance sheets. USDA had the carry out at like 2.1 billion bushels. That's going to go up to 2.3, barring any type of changes to yield, demand, anything like that on the next WASDE report. And that's if we get the next WASDE report, because it sounds like government's going to shut down tomorrow. So who knows what's going to happen as we go through the next few weeks? We'll just have to wait and see. Beans relatively unchanged on the stocks. I think stocks came in at 316 million bushels. September WASDE was at 330. And on wheat, we saw the September 1 stocks at 2.12. That was 77 million bushels higher than what the expectation was for the markets.
We saw the September report from last week, and the corn markets are getting that point of volatility in line. I'm concerned about demand for the corn.
I think demand is likely a little bit overstated right now on current WASDE reports. I think you probably likely see that dwindle a little bit as we move throughout the next few um, WASDE reports. I think that any reduction in yields can easily be offset by reduction in some of those demand numbers. So it's something that's got me a little bit concerned. Feels like the corn market feels a little bit heavy as we move forward. But I would say, in light of the bean yields coming in high, I think the corn yields that we're hearing early are a little bit disappointing in a lot of areas. So kind of a tale of two sides there when we look between the two major crops. Some disappointment in corn yields, some relief, or maybe some expression of better soybean yields. Whatever's going on in beans, the opposite's happening in corn, and a lot of that has to do with the disease pressure just really weighing heavy on a lot of those corn acres, especially in the state of Iowa.
How about the soybean demand? Are you considering that we will see a crisis on the beans?
Well, it's nerve-wracking right now without any type of China demand. There's talk there's going to be some discussions occur in the month of October. We've been basically kicking that can down the road for the last 6 months on these conversations. I don't have a ton of faith that anything gets announced. Um, you know, the growers that could really use some type of soybean deal with China is the growers that I work with up. Well, all growers could, but a lot of the beans that get grown in North Dakota, over half of them get shipped on a train out to the Pacific Northwest to go into those Asian markets. So without China at the table, that really reduces our export market. Our basis levels are about $1.50 under on average, if you can even find a home for them up here. A lot of elevators, once they're full on beans, they're done taking them until they can get them shipped out. So there is a little bit of nervousness going on in that market that we might not have a home for them, and we can't consume enough domestically here in the state of North Dakota. So that's really pressure our basis. And if you want to have an idea of how much that's really affected us, basis just about 6 weeks ago was about $1.10 under. That's widened out to about $1.50. So 40-cent hit on basis combined with a 50 to 40-cent drop in the futures over the last few weeks. The farmer that hasn't done anything saw a 90-cent drop in his cash beans really over the last month.
It's just frustrating, Tyler, because many farmers are concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, and I'm not going to make light of the situation. It stinks. I have hope that over time we develop some markets. I've always struggled with the fact that we're dependent on a communist marketplace to make this deal work. So hopefully we're able to, if we aren't able to reach an agreement that brings China to the table and gets them buying beans, hopefully we're able to develop some markets where that becomes less worrisome in the future. The problem with that is that takes time, and that's not going to help anyone's balance sheets out for 2025 and 2026.
Sure. How is the fundamentals on the wheat markets, Tyler?
Fundamentals stink. There's too much of it. And then the federal government gave us even more today. So saw an increase in wheat stocks. One of the things that was really weird about this report, an extra 450,000 acres of wheat grown in Texas that we found out about today. So just higher acres. The fundamentals just aren't. I mean, demand is good. Don't get me wrong. We're sending, exporting wheat. We're using it. We just continue to produce more than's getting used, so that carryout continues to grow, especially here in the U.S.
How is the winter wheat planting?
Winter wheat planting, I think, is about third done. It's been moving along pretty good. The southern plains have seen good moisture over the last few months. So I actually had a guy here just a week ago that was from kind of the panhandle of Oklahoma, and he was telling me that they've had a lot of good rains. Everything looks really good. But he's one of them that was growing wheat just a few years ago. He's a smaller operator, and he has vowed he would never plant wheat again.
I had a good steak for this week, man.
That's good. You should do that every day.
Sure. Do you have any final thoughts about the fundamentals with these corn prices?
Just I don't know that I'm panicking too much. I do think you're going to see that yield fall in uh, additional USDA reports. Some of that could get swallowed up by reduction in demand. So I mean, I wouldn't get too bearish. I wouldn't get too bullish right now. We do need to see some type of news, either a new demand driver or a new supply side. But we'll just have to sit and watch and see what happens as we move forward.
How about the beans?
Beans, I think we got to monitor these yields that come in. If we continue to see later harvested beans that continue to yield like the early harvested one, I think you're going to see a increase in the USDA WASDE yield. That being said, the other tricky thing is with the dry conditions that have been going on, harvest is going fast and furious. So the time between early and late harvested beans isn't going to be much, and there's not going to be a lot of time to react.
Thanks, Tyler. I enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. You take care and go Bears.
Tyler Shau from agmarkets.net on back roads of Illinois.